Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So last time we completed verse 44, right? 42, 43 and 44 of chapter 2 are chanted together. So in 41, he defines what is the mind intellect. I told you, make a note, that's important. The intellect is that which reasons, analyzes, comes to a firm conviction, versus the mind, which he says many branched, bahu shakha, many desires, ananta, each desire is endless, literally endless, insatiable, infinite. So you remain tormented by your mind, your emotions, if you don't have a strong intellect to govern them. That is the whole philosophy. It's not that you need to stop having emotions. That's what people believe. Vedanta makes you cold, heartless. It's not that. But your emotions remain under the control of a powerful intellect. So you see so many times, right? So every day there's a headline, some celebrity with some addiction, some uh, problem in the relationships. The whole problem is you can have everything in life, but if you don't know how to control your mind, it becomes meaningless. You fall into an abyss of suffering and sorrow. There's no way out. And the worst part is, that is what he talks in 42, 43, 44. In fact, we were talking about it yesterday. The goal of any religion, true religion, means that which takes you to your real self, to the divinity, to the spirit, the soul. So, all religions have these rituals and festivals and reminders, but these are all reminders. Because your mind gets lost in the world, they are meant to remind you that your purpose is to get to the self, nothing else. But people become addicted to the rituals as an end in itself, not as a means to an end. So they believe the performance of the ritual itself will give you these desires, fulfill your desires. So they are also totally selfish. This is, see, you must understand the Gita was written thousands of years ago. 1,000 or so years ago, before the Gita was the Upanishad. So even by the time of the Gita, people had become addicted to the Vedic rituals. And that's what he talks about. So 42, the unwise utter flowery speech. They get caught up in the language, the song. It's beautiful. Sanskrit language, the poetry, the meters, the songs. In fact, Sama Veda is known for its songs. Sama means song. So He says, the unwise utter flowery speech, rejoicing in the letter of the Vedas. See, they don't go to the spirit. They're caught up in just the letter, the language. And they say there's nothing else but this. See how he's put it. And 43, obsessed with desires, kamatmana, swarga para, with heaven as the ultimate goal of birth and action. They prescribes many rites for the attainment of pleasure and power. Bhoga, Aishwarya. So they just want to fulfill their desires. Heaven means they want to be happy in the future, and they believe even after that, if they do these rituals, they'll be taken care of. It's a belief. So I was talking to somebody, his father passed away, and he was saying the amount of rituals they make us do, And I've done it for a year because I don't believe in it, for the sake of my mother. Now, second cycle. Of course, which costs a fat amount of money. Because they scare them. His soul won't be peaceful. Be hanging around there, bugging you, as if there's nothing else to do. See, nobody understands. What does it have to do? Soul is the self. It's all pervading. Mind intellect says goodbye and goes to the next embodiment. What do I have to do with you? Nobody understands. So, many rituals for the attainment of pleasure, satisfaction, whatever it is, and power. And those who are attached to this pleasure and power, this is 44, whose minds are drawn away by that speech, have no determined intellect. Vyavasayatmika buddhi, determined intellect, samadhau, vidhiyate, fixed in samadhi, in self-realization. See, they're not interested in self-realization. They are interested in the world. So he condemns such abuse of religion. And you go to the Upanishads in the Vedas, they also condemn. Adrida plava. We did Mundaka recently in the retreat, right? He says these are frail rafts. That means they are broken boats that will drown you. Andhenaiva niyamana yathandha. People who do this, they are like the blind being led by the blind. So friends, periodically these masters have come to remind us not to get addicted to the ritual, but get to the knowledge, the philosophy, and help yourself grow as a human being. That will really help you. So that's what he talks about in the 5th topic of this chapter, one of the most elevating sections. Which has some famous verses which are oft quoted in the Gita. Karmanye vadikaras. Your right is in action, never to the fruit. That all comes from this section. Samatvam yoga uchyate. Peace of mind is yoga. All those very famous to those who've read it. Famous means what? Now all the pop stars are famous. What? Famous to whom? So we'll get to that. 45 to 53 is titled Desireless Action Leads to Enlightenment. Right. Yes, Umesh, you had something.
Yeah, Gautamji, here it mentions karma kanda. Can you explain that?
See, karma kanda is the part of the Vedas that deal with rituals, ceremonies and prayers. So each Veda, there are 4 Vedas, right? Rich, Sama, Yajur and Atharvana. And each of the Vedas is divided into 4 sections. Mantra, Brahmana and Aranyaka and Upanishad. 4. Each Veda. The first 3, mantra deals with prayers, hymns, glorifying that formless reality called Brahman. And the second and third part, Brahmana, Aranyaka, are descriptions of the rituals, elaborate rituals. Only the last part of the Veda, which is the Upanishads, directly deals with knowledge of the self. That's called Jnana Kanda, means the part of knowledge. The first 3 are called Karma Kanda, the part of rituals and ceremonies and prayers. What is to be done publicly or privately. So people have become obsessed by the Karma Kanda, that's what he's saying, and have totally neglected the Jnana Kanda, the knowledge. In fact, if you work on the knowledge portion, whether or not you do the rituals becomes totally irrelevant because you understand what they are meant for.
If that is true, then how come Upanishad was written later and dropped in? Why wasn't it up front?
Because, good question, what Umesh is referring to, why were not the Upanishads written right in the beginning of the Vedas? They came much later. They were appended to the Vedas. Because early on the rituals and prayers and ceremonies were publicly what the community did. Privately the instruction went on from guru to disciple. So the system was beautifully done. That you do the communal ceremonies together, reminding yourself of the self, and privately you learn the knowledge. Then later on, what happened? Same thing I told you. People started getting addicted to the rituals, and the knowledge portion broke down. So they had to make a concerted effort to put together the knowledge portion and add it as part of the Veda. So people understood this is the real thing. But it worked for a while. By the time of the Gita, even that had stopped working. That's why the Gita was written. In fact, by the time of the Gita, people had become so addicted to the Vedic ritual of yajna, fire worship, that the whole Gita gave it the new meaning, not a new meaning. It said what the yajna is for, which we learn in the next chapter. Yajna actually means sacrifice. You have to sacrifice your egocentric desire in the fire of the knowledge of the self. That removes the desires and you ultimately gain enlightenment. So, like I told you, periodically these masters came and reminded people what the whole thing is all about. In fact, in the modern day, today, the whole thing has gone totally off the rails. And in this context, in fact, I wanted to announce at the end of class, but it's relevant here. So, what my guru did, he's 97 now. We're talking in the late 50s, so like literally 70 years ago, when he started his commitment to Vedanta, to this knowledge, to learn it. Over the course of years, he found that there is no text at all which can explain the whole philosophy in one book. Not only the entire philosophy of Vedanta, but also how you can practically apply it in your life. And that's why it took him literally 20 years to write his main seminal book, the Vedanta Treatise. So this is the book which I teach you on Saturdays, right? Some of you are not coming. You should make an effort to attend. This is the book, the Vedanta Treatise. One book. which has the whole philosophy from beginning to end in today's thought and language, meant for the whole world. In fact, yesterday or day before, I don't know when, one of you asked me, they wanted to give he works in a big multinational, in a senior position, and he wanted to present it to his CEO, this book, because I told them, anybody wants to know the whole philosophy, what is behind the entire culture of India, this is the book, the whole wisdom in one book. Otherwise, you have to go to so many books. Where is illusion explained? Where is karma explained? Where is bhakti, devotion explained? You have to go to different places. Then he said, I'm going to gift it to him, but I don't know what letter to write. That also I have to do. So, you want to hear that letter? I just 2 paragraphs. Yes or no? Yes. You said no, then I can't. You better say yes. Where is that? Yesterday I said no. Subject, the gift of wisdom. Because he's giving him a gift. Fellow gets so many gifts, all useless things. He'll go to China, he'll get some doll Chinese. He'll go to Russia, he'll get that. Go to India, he'll get some murti. Every place. And they just put it in there. That's why all your rooms are fully cluttered. Absolutely useless things which you go on collecting. So if you want to give any gift also, Diwali is coming, Christmas, you better give the gift of wisdom, right? Choose one. This is the book. One book if you want to give. Dear, I don't know his name, so I just wrote dear. It is a privilege to present you with the book Vedanta Treatise, the Eternities. A truly unique work that contains the entire Indian philosophical wisdom explained in today's thought and language. If you give him a book in Sanskrit, what he's going to do, right? Today's thought and language. A wisdom that enables not only one's internal evolution as a human being, but also practical benefits in relationships, stress, workplace productivity, and clarity of thinking. Now, note this: you'll be able to handle your relationships, your stress, your concentration and productivity at work, and you'll be able to think clearly. A complete manual for one's personal and professional development. This book has had a life changing impact not only on myself and many others I know, but also the countless followers of its pioneering author A. Parthasarathi all over the world, which is a fact. It enjoys best selling status and is currently in its 17th edition, having started out as a product of over 20 years of full time study and research, culminating in its first edition in 1978. We do hope you will enjoy and benefit from its timeless wisdom on life and living. Because you can't go on writing more. Nobody will read. Right? Correct, no? So anybody wants to gift to their thing and you want the letter, email us. We'll forward it to you. It was a nice letter to send along with it. In your handwritten, type it out, sign it, and send it. You can't give more wisdom. You can't have more wisdom in one book. Whether it's the Upanishads, whether it's the Gita, all condensed. Upanishads you have to go to, there are hundreds of Upanishads. Now, which one will you give? Just hope you don't get fired, that's all. I will put that caveat in the middle. So, who gave me this fire? So, nothing will happen, don't worry. If you think it's useful, do it. Don't think it's useful, discard it. Now, what do you want me to say? Right. So where were we? 45 we have to start. Right? Any other questions before we begin? All good. Roxanne? Yeah.
Okay.
Ah.
Yeah, when you were talking about this, I was wondering, over the ages, people seem to fall into ritual. They fall in love with ritual before they fall in love with the truth, even though the goal is to do it backwards. So what does that say about human nature? That this is so common. And then since we're humans too, what does that say about us potentially falling into the same trap?
You're absolutely right. That is why if you read the 43rd verse, he says, obsessed with desires. So what happens is, the pursuit of the self takes a lot of effort because you have to override your mind's selfish desires, right? So it is very difficult from generation to generation to keep that.
I see.
So you see a master comes and the followers cannot live up to the standard of the master. So obviously they may live up to something. Then the third generation, they can't live up to the second generation. So the selfishness is so much. There's a tendency to use religion to gain your own selfish ends. And people who talk about that become famous, become the leaders. Yeah, if you believe in this God, you will get this. Yes, whole lot follows him. Even today, one celebrity has to say, I went to that fellow and my movie was a hit. Millions of fellows will go. Because they all want something to fulfill their selfish interests. And God is unknown. So anybody can say anything. You understand? So it's very, very difficult to keep those high standards. So some of us who have understood that the truth is beyond these rituals, there's something beyond all this, you want to pursue it, you must keep that commitment. It's not easy in the beginning. It becomes easier and easier as you go along. You find more and more peace and control and stability, so that encourages you to go further. But the tendency of the mind is selfishness, so it drops. And this happens all the time. So in India, there have been masters who've come, lifted up the standard, then again it falls. Then again a master comes, again it falls. You understand? This has been going on for thousands of years. The root cause is human selfishness. And you may say, why can't you override the selfishness? Because you fulfill a selfish desire, you get an instant pleasure. So it's right there. Whereas with this knowledge, you have to work on it to derive the pleasure over the long term. So it's very difficult to keep it. Clear? 45.
त्रैगुण्यविषया वेदाः निस्त्रैगुण्यो भवार्जुन निर्द्वन्द्वो नित्यसत्त्वस्थः निर्योगक्षेम आत्मवान् त्रैगुण्यविषया वेदाः निस्त्रैगुण्यो भवार्जुन निर्द्वन्द्वो नित्यसत्त्वस्थः निर्योगक्षेम आत्मवान्.
The Vedas deal with the three gunas, attributes. Be thou free, O Arjuna, from these gunas. free from these pairs of opposites, nirdvandva. Remain ever in sattva, purity, free from acquisition and preservation, and established in the self. So, see this verse, he gives an overall picture of what really is a spiritual person. So, who is spiritual? So, he says the Vedas deal with these three gunas. Three gunas means thought textures. The Vedas explain. He means the Upanishads explains that a human is composed of tamas, the lowest, which is ignorance and inertia, the middle, which is rajas, which is this egocentric desire and action, and the highest guna or quality is sattva, where you are poised, objective, and focused on the higher. So all of us have these three gunas in us, nature. So the role of life is to go from tamas to rajas, rajas to sattva. But what he says here is the Vedas can only take you to the highest sattvic point, which itself is a great exalted state. But ultimately you have to go beyond the Vedas. You have to go beyond these three. That's what he says. The Veda deal with the three gunas, but you must go beyond the gunas. So what he's saying is even the Vedas, which talk the highest philosophy, are still part of the world. The true goal of human existence is to go beyond the world to the fourth state of consciousness. Right now you are going through three states: waking, dream, deep sleep. The actual state of enlightenment is beyond these three. It's called the fourth, Chaturtham, the state of pure consciousness. So the Vedas are a means to get you there, even though they are part of the waking state. And what is this waking state? What is this world? Nothing but pairs of opposites, heat and cold, joy and sorrow, much more sorrow, little bit of joy, but still joy and sorrow, honor and dishonor, pleasure and pain, right and wrong, day and night. There are endless pairs of opposites, good and bad, ego and humility. You can go on. Short and tall. You can never understand tall without short. When you say somebody is tall, how can that word tall has no meaning unless you understand short, and short has no meaning without tall. So everything you understand because of its opposite. When you say night, it means not day. Otherwise, what significance? How can you say it's night? It has no meaning. So the problem is we are totally affected by the pairs of opposites, which are unending, relentless, from your birth to death. In fact, birth and death is a pair of opposites. So you're affected if somebody is rude to you. You're happy if somebody is nice to you. Pairs of opposites. You're affected. You have to go beyond that. And how you go beyond sattva, first get established in sattva. That's what I was telling somebody yesterday. You're thinking about enlightenment. First, you must be established in a state where things in the world don't bother you. This is the sattvic state, at least relatively. And how you do that is becoming free from this fever of acquisition preservation. whole human race is obsessed with acquiring things from outside and preserving them for one's own enjoyment. It's called yoga kshema. Yoga means uniting with them, not in the spiritual sense, getting them. Kshema means preserving them, trying for enjoyment. You earn money, and then you need to preserve that money, right? You can't blow it away. And what do you preserve that money for? To ultimately try and enjoy from it. Problem is enjoying it. To enjoy it, you have to give it up. You have to spend it. No, that's the whole problem. So there are fellows who go on acquiring, they don't even enjoy. They're so attached. So established in the self. When a person understands that there's a higher state, far superior state beyond just getting and trying to enjoy, that person is sattvic. It's not that you should not earn, but you're not obsessed by it. That is the difference. It's not become a uncontrolled craving. Others are possessed by that craving. So how to get there? Established in the self. There's no other way. You gain the knowledge of the higher to get detached from the lower. Dirgha samsara rogasya vicharo hi mahaushadam, says the Upanishads. There's only one cure for this disease of worldly existence, which is the knowledge of the self. Vichara. With the great medicine for this disease. Mahaushadha means the great medicine is vichara, contemplation, reflection, think. Does anybody think? You're all working in a company, right? You want to become CEO. First thinking is, what is that fellow's life? You must first understand that. What do you want to become? See, I told you I had that thought, when I was being recruited, my senior year in college. This is when I was 20, 21, just turned to, 20 in fact. I was, one year I was double promoted. I don't know why. This fellow can't be in this class, you put him. So from third to fifth I went, I don't know. So I was 20 by the time I was senior in college here in America. And what is this? So this fellow, he's the head of the entire Northeast region. Very senior chap in this huge firm which I was interviewing. And you got to go through painful, whole day of interviews. Nice food and all you get. Put you in a nice hotel before that night before. All that is good. And then you got to, and if they don't want you, they'll give you a lunch and pack you off. But if you're called after lunch, then you know you got it, basically. We've been told by our seniors before that. They coach us, See, if you make it to 4 o'clock, don't worry. It's a formality, Lunch, they tell you goodbye means eat as much as you can because you're not coming back there. So we had all those tips. So I asked that guy because he came. In the end, you get the interview with the main guy, who it's like a ceremony. He gives you the letter of appointment, and then he shakes hands. So this fellow did all that and said, "We've been asking you questions all day. Do you have something to ask us? To ask me?" He said. "My guys have been asking you questions all day. I know you must be tired. So, is there something you'd like to ask me?" I said yes, because those days I got interested in this. I said, "Are you a happy person?" Can you believe I asked him, "Are you happy?" He got a shock, for a minute. But there, a sport. He says, to be honest, I'm okay. I'm not that happy, but I'll be much happier if I was in charge of the whole US operation. So this is what gave me that conviction, because from our standpoint, as a 20-year-old, this fellow, he's like, I don't know, he's the ultimate you can aspire, right? He's the second rung. Under the CEO is 3-4 of these guys. He's the one of those. And it's a huge firm, huge worldwide. So I said, if this guy is miserable, what is the chance? I am not going to spend my whole life getting there to be miserable. So I said goodbye and I left. In fact, when I was in India, they sent one fellow, Indian fellow, who works for that firm, to find out why did I leave? What is he doing? He left this for what? They thought I'm in some top secret project or some huge something. I'm nothing. I was in a ashram. Nothing was there. That fellow came there for 1 hour, he left. This fellow's gone mad. So the point is, this is thinking. You must at least question, what do you want to be? You find it's a mirage. You believe there's something there. You get there, there's nothing. So this questioning must go on constantly. Ask yourself, you're 40 years old. Go back to when you were 20. If you thought this would where you would be at 40, you would have grabbed it. Yeah, I got a beautiful job. I got a nice wife. I got nice kids. And I'm miserable. So at 20, you thought 40, if you were here at 40, you'd be great. Now, why don't you understand that? You don't. Because you believe, no, another 10 years, that's it. Let my kids go out of college. I'll have another few million in the bank. Then I'll be sitting in a beach. Nothing will happen. 50, exact same thing. I only have one house. No beach house. Or if I have beach house, only in America, not in France. It's endless. Because I know fellows at all these levels. Each one is miserable at that level. Everything is there. My children don't talk to me. You know how many fellows go through that? Torture. That sorrow is worse than anything. Ungrateful. Like in Shakespeare, King Lear says, sharper than a serpent's tooth is a thankless child. He couldn't handle it. He just couldn't handle it. That he gave his whole kingdom to Goneril and Reagan, and they finished him off. They literally left him in ruin. And he went mad. He couldn't handle it. So you may have everything. I know one fellow is one of the world's top in terms of money. Such trauma with the children. So, never ending. So, you better get established in Brahman, in this truth. That's the only way. So, everything in this world is just a means to an end. So, I'm not saying leave your job, leave your family, whatever. You believe you need it for your spiritual development, directly, indirectly, keep it. But you understand it's a passing phase. Use it as a means to an end. Even your life is a passing phase. I can't believe it, Now people start calling you uncle. This thing, you can't even imagine that the few, like I said, I was 20, it seems like yesterday, right? Now the fellow uncle, and then this thing, it's just goes, passing. So what is this life? I'm not making you pessimistic. This is the truth. Shakespeare says that life is a poor actor who frets and struts for his hour on the stage and then is heard no more. Life is a poor actor that struts and frets and struts his hour on the stage and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, but signifying nothing. Shakespeare says, I'm not saying about your life, so you decide who you want to listen to. 100 years ago, right here in New Jersey, there were a totally different set of actors on this stage in the same town. The same. Another 50 years, God knows if the earth will remain. Few nuclear bombs, whole thing will be gone. And none of us will be there. But what are you bothered about? Diwali is coming. Diwali. Who are we meeting? What are we doing? How many Diwalis, how many Christmases come and go? That's what he says in Bhaja Govindam. Day and night, winter and spring come repeatedly. Yet those desires remain exactly the same. Not moved an inch. Yes, somebody's been waiting for a while. Raghu?
Yeah, I have a question about the Rajasic tattvas and the material desires that you were referring to. Is that it's endless? You have one fulfilled and then you have another one. But what do you think about the desire to have a family or have kids and starting a family? Does that fall under the similar category of desires?
See, any desire which is catering to one's own selfish needs, right, is insatiable. It's not that you have a desire for a family, you have a child and that's it. Then the child's education is not the child's education. I know a fellow, he struggled and struggled to get his son into an Ivy League. Finally, he got him. Then I met him. He was so depressed. I said, what happened? That fellow has taken music major. The fellow went all the way there. He thought he's going to become a big doctor or a lawyer or a business. The fellow wants to play the violin. I have nothing against the violin. But this guy is depressed. So it's endless. Not that he didn't play the violin and took a good job, he'd be fine. Then they say, who are they marrying? You know how many 30-year-olds I have? Parents of 30-year-olds waiting. What are they marrying? And then when they marry, finally, who did they marry? This person is going to come to my house. And then Bahushaka, Ananta, endless. So there's nothing. You must understand what you're getting into. That's all. But if that desire for a family is so strong that you believe that you will not be able to grow as a human being without fulfilling it, go ahead. So I've had people who've understood that they can do without children. And they are very, very happy and they are putting their efforts to spiritual growth. There are others I know who said, no, we cannot do without, because it will be too much of a frustration. To them, I would say, go ahead, but understand what you're getting into. So it's totally subjective. So in our academy, we have so many of the students who got married, but they decided not to have children. Maybe they needed a partner, can't do without it. But now why complicate it further? So it's totally, I wouldn't say it's right or wrong, but you must understand. So whatever it is, now the beauty of Vedanta is whether you are in the world, in a job or a business or in a family, you can use that opportunity, you can use those obligations to grow spiritually. So that is the beauty. You don't have to leave it. People believe you have to leave it. It's one or the other. That's not true. That is why you see even the gods shown with families, right? Shiva, Parvati, you see they have children. Krishna, they have children. Rama, they have children. Wife, children. There's nothing, no taboo at all. For that reason, they showed it. And still people believe. Vedanta means put all your belongings in one piece of cloth, take a stick, go into the Himalayas. I don't know which world you're living in, I don't understand. That was for that world, this world. So we are very practical. Don't worry about that. None of you have to leave anything. You leave anything and come here, I'll have to deal with it. I don't want to. So be where you are. Only thing is keep getting the knowledge. Be sincere and dedicated. Get up early in the morning. Keep gaining the knowledge. You got it? So analyze your personality. Yes, I need a partner. Get married. It's a natural thing. It's normal. Then do I need to have children? If you say yes, I would say how many? You fulfilled your desire for one child. Now why you want a cricket team? So you have to use your intellect and analyze each aspect of life. So what he's saying here is the goal should be to ultimately get to the self, which is beyond all this. So your life's mission should be, how can I program every aspect of my life to help me grow towards enlightenment? In fact, that's the next chapter, Karma Yoga, the path of action. So at the end of this section, we're going to get into one of the fascinating portions of the Gita titled Sita Prajna, who is a perfect human being. And then the next chapter is the really practical chapter, where he starts with where we all are right now and what actions need to be done to grow. So we'll get there soon enough, don't worry. 46.
यावानर्थ उदपाने सर्वतः सम्प्लुतोदके तावान् सर्वेषु वेदेषु ब्राह्मणस्य विजानतः यावानर्थ उदपाने सर्वतः सम्प्लुतोदके तावान् सर्वेषु वेदेषु ब्राह्मणस्य विजानतः.
To an enlightened Brahmana, all the Vedas are of as much use as a pond is when there is a flood of water everywhere. So he's explaining the previous verse where he says the Vedas are a means to an end. Right? So here he's saying a person who's reached enlightenment, to him, what is the use of the Vedas? It's like you're reading books to go from school to college. Once you've gone to college, what is the use of your school books, school textbooks? You dispose them. So even the Vedas, the highest texts, are only a means to an end. You need it right till the highest point. But once you get there, they don't mean anything. That's what he says. When a full river, when a place is fully flooded, what is the use of a pond? Water is everywhere. You don't need to go to a pond to get it. So throughout the Upanishads also they say that. It's just a means. Just great is the Gayatri, but far greater is Brahman. Gayatri means the message of the Vedas is contained in the Gayatri mantra. It's a prayer to the sun representing the knowledge of the self. So you gain the knowledge and you unfold your intellect. That is the Gayatri. It's just a reminder. He says it's a ritual. It's great, no doubt. But how much greater is Brahman? What is it meant for? So they constantly warn us not to get attached to anything in this world. It's just a means to an end. So right now, you're so attached and involved in everything in the world that we have lost sight of the purpose of human existence, which is to get to enlightenment. So it's not going to be easy. You have to pull yourself and start functioning. There has to be a determination, commitment. And how you start, one of the famous verses. He is giving a sort of a preview to Karma Yoga. And this is one of the most oft-quoted verses of the entire Gita. Anybody who doesn't know anything of the Gita, you ask them, they'll quote this verse as if this means everything. And they don't know what this means also, but they'll quote it. So at least today you'll have a chance to understand what it means.
कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्मफलहेतुर्भुः मा ते सङ्गोऽस्त्वकर्मणि कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्मफलहेतुर्भुः मा ते सङ्गोऽस्त्वकर्मणि.
Karmanyevadhikaraste. Your right, adhikar means your right, is in action only. Ma phaleshu kadachana, never to the fruit. Let not the fruit of action be the motive. Nor let your attachment be to inaction. See how beautifully he puts it. What is right action? So how do you start? Number one, never get attached to inaction. Wherever you find yourself being lazy, lethargic, procrastination, we will do. Yes, let's see. No seeing. You got to get on to action. Any society, see, the West is productive, dynamic, prosperous because of action. Eastern parts of the world are in poverty, penury, inaction. They don't want to work. Prosperity is nothing but hard work, action, dynamism. But when you're acting, the problem is if you move up from tamas, which is inaction, you go to rajas. You get caught up there. You're acting, no doubt, but the motive is fruit. Fruit means that selfish result. What am I getting out of it? That is what it means by fruit. And that gives you that stress and strain of life. Insatiable craving for more and more. What more can I get? This is the fruit. Never satisfied, never peaceful. Worries and anxieties all the time. This is called rajas. But rajas is superior to tamas because you're acting, you're moving. So there will be results of your action. But the mind is not at all peaceful, stressed out. So what is sattva? When you are acting, your right is in action, but there is no selfish motive behind the action. So you want to earn wealth, earn all the wealth in the world, but your motive should be to help, not just gain wealth for yourself. Gain wealth, but not just for yourself. There should also be that thought of others. That is sattva, selfless action. So what he's trying to say is your focus in life should be on action. Keep acting. Do not worry about the fruit. You set a selfless goal and go on acting. And if you act properly, the work will be beautiful. In fact, if you are unselfish, you enjoy the action per se. It's such a source of enjoyment, happiness to be able to act. You don't even need the fruit. Fruit is incidental. You get a big bonus, it should be, it's nice to get it. It's not waiting. It should be incidental. You got promoted incident. You enjoy the action, what difference it makes? So when your mind is calm, you do great action. If you don't trust the Gita, at least look at nature. The sun shines. Does the sun have a thought? What it's getting out of it? Look at what it's doing for the world. The rose gives fragrance. Does a rose ever think how many people are smelling me? According to that, I'll release my fragrance. Nothing like that. Khalil Gibran says, you must give like the yonder myrtle breathes its fragrance into space. See, the myrtle in a lonely valley just breathes its fragrance into space. Means it doesn't bother who's smelling it or not. That's its nature, to give fragrance. It gives fragrance. So whatever you do, your right is in the action only. So you look at life like that, how can you be stressed? In anything. You're a parent, do your parenting. That is your right. You can do that action. What comes out of it, why you're bothered? It's not in your hand. The children could turn out to be the best or the worst. But you're all the time thinking, my child, how will they come out? My children. Make a mess out of it. It's a torture. 20 years of torture. Never ending. I do what I ought to do. So now I'm teaching you, I teach. If I'm constantly thinking, how many people are learning? How many people are doing? It'll be a torture. Whoever's interested, let them come. Whoever's not interested, let them go. Yat ayati tat ayatu. Yat prayati prayatu tat. Whatever comes, let it come. Whatever goes, let it go. Etad hi parama archana atmana. This is the highest worship of the self, he says. Now that doesn't mean you're indifferent. You're focusing on the action. This is the highest worship. Whatever comes is fine, whatever goes is fine. It's not that you're indifferent, but your focus is on the action. Got it? So, one thing before we end, somebody had asked last week, if you remember, the question, how can I make the most out of the session? Remember I told you, you should attend live rather than the recordings. It'll help you. But other thing which I forgot, somebody pointed out is, we have 15 minutes before class, these bhajans playing, devotional songs. So, if you can come 5, 10, 15, whatever minutes before, it'll help you get your mind in the right frame of mind before the lecture begins. It's nothing, it's just harmless songs, just reminding ourselves there's something beyond this. But it gets you in the right frame of mind. Because most of you I see at 5 to 10, there'll be 50 followers. 10:05, 200 people. Means last 10 minutes, just rushing, starting the class. And I know what you're going on. Okay, shouting and screaming with your wife. You shut up, you shut up, you shut up. Suddenly, Dhanavadu. Is a joke, You're playing a joke on yourself and me. Because it will take you 10 minutes just to get attuned to just to start listening. So your mind needs 5-10 minutes minimum, 15 ideal, to make the transition from the worldly frequency to a spiritual frequency. So if you come 10-15 minutes before and sit, and then we start the invocation, you're fully ready to listen to the knowledge. Again, it doesn't matter to me, trust me. My job is to start talking, I talk. Like a play button is pressing, I play. That's all. There's no meaning. But for your sake, I'm saying. So give it a thought, plan yourself like that. And we will meet as we usually do on Wednesday, otherwise the weekend. Right? Hari Om.